Have you ever stood in front of the microwave with a bowl of leftovers telling yourself it's harmless? Yes, right, I know. The hum of the machine feels comforting, the soft click, the rising scent of something familiar. You wait for the beep, lift the lid, and steam touches your face like a quiet promise that warmth means safety. But here's the truth, most of us forget. Not every meal forgives a second round of heat. Some foods change the moment they cool down. Inside that bowl, harmless-looking bacteria can wake up release toxins and stay there even after reheating. What smells fine can still harm you, and what looks fresh can turn dangerous without a sign. It isn't fear you need, it's awareness, because some leftovers carry more risk than reward. And today we'll uncover the 5 foods you should never reheat, especially if you care about your health and the people sharing your kitchen. Number 1. Rice. Food safety experts have long warned that cooked rice is one of the world's leading causes of leftover-related food poisoning. Not spoiled meat, not day-old seafood, simple, white, familiar rice. Every year, thousands of people fall sick from reheating it, not because it tastes bad, but because it hides a danger no one can see. At first, that sounds impossible. Rice feels like the safest food there is. It looks clean, smells fine, and fills a kitchen with warmth. Many of us have eaten yesterday's rice countless times without a second thought. You scoop it into a bowl, add a splash of water, cover it, press start. The microwave hums, steam fogs the lid, and that gentle scent of dinner returns. It feels safe the way habit always does. But that comfort is exactly what makes rice deceptive. In a widely reported case, a college student reheated leftover fried rice, ate it, and went on with his day. Hours later, he collapsed with violent vomiting and fever. Doctors discovered he hadn't been poisoned by spoilage or bad storage, but by a toxin his microwave couldn't destroy. It wasn't the rice that failed him, it was time. Here's what actually happens. Inside raw rice live tiny spores of Bacillus cereus, a soil-borne bacteria found almost everywhere. Cooking doesn't always kill them. Instead, the heat simply puts them to sleep, dormant, waiting. Once the rice cools slowly or sits out too long, those spores awaken, multiply, and start producing a heat-resistant toxin. Even if you reheat the rice until it's piping hot, the toxin stays right there, ready to act. As a result, the rice you reheat can look and smell perfectly normal, yet carries something no amount of heat can undo. That's why food scientists call Bacillus cereus the invisible leftover threat. You can't taste it, you can't smell it, and you can't burn it away. What makes this worse for seniors is how quietly it works. A few hours of queasiness, dehydration, dizziness symptoms that may seem harmless, but hit harder when the body's defenses are slower. Still, the solution isn't fear, it's discipline. Rice can be perfectly safe if you treat it right. The U.S. Department of Agriculture and the Food Standards Agency both recommend cooling cooked rice within 1 hour, spreading it out to release steam, then storing it in the refrigerator in a shallow container. When reheating, bring it all the way to steaming hot and do it only once. Never reheat rice that's been sitting at room temperature for more than 2 hours, not even if it looks okay. Because rice doesn't warn you. It doesn't curdle, sour, or darken. It stays soft, white, innocent. That's why people trust it, and that's how it tricks them. The danger isn't in what you see, but in what you can't. Older generations often kept rice overnight without worry. Kitchens were cooler, then air was drier, and family meals were smaller. In many households, tossing out food felt disrespectful. Waste was shameful. But the conditions have changed. Modern homes stay warm long after dinner. Airtight containers trap moisture that bacteria love. What once lasted till morning now spoils by midnight. Awareness isn't rebellion against tradition, it's adaptation. The truth is, rice doesn't care about nostalgia or thrift. It follows chemistry, not memory. If left too long in that danger zone between 40 and 140 degrees Fahrenheit, it simply becomes a quiet incubator. That's not something you can smell away or cook away. So when in doubt, respect the clock. Cook less if you can. Cool fast, store cold. Reheat once, then stop. The cost of throwing out a bowl of rice is small compared to what an unseen toxin can do. There's a kind of wisdom in letting go. Every grain represents time, the effort it took to grow, to cook, to share. Protect that by not pushing it beyond its safe moment. Because even the most ordinary foods have boundaries, and the simplest comfort can carry the deepest lesson. Safety isn't about what we see, it's about what we remember to do. Therefore, treat rice like memory, keep it fresh, respect its limits, and let it rest when it's done. Because heat remembers and so does what it touches. Number 2, chicken. The next one may surprise you. It's chicken. Yes, you shouldn't reheat it. You open the container. The roasted skin still glistens under the kitchen light, the color golden and rich. For a second, it feels like Sunday again. You place it in the microwave, press start, and wait for the hum to end. When you lift the lid, the air is thick with salt and fat. Familiar but faintly wrong. The scent has gone flat like old oil losing its edge. The first bite tastes dry. The fibers tough, the flavor dulled into something metallic and tired. The warmth fills your mouth but not your memory. It looks safe. It feels safe. But something in that taste tells a quieter truth. Heat can't fix what time has already changed. Chef Michael Murdy once put it bluntly, "Chicken is forgiving when fresh but cruel once reheated. The texture hardens, the flavor breaks, and what's trapped inside doesn't always die with heat." He's right. Unlike red meat, poultry muscle fibers are fine and tightly wound. Once cooked, they squeeze out most of their moisture. When you reheat them, those fibers shrink even more, turning tenderness into dryness. What was once juicy now feels chalky, the flavor replaced by fatigue. However, texture is only part of the problem. Beneath that dull taste lies a more serious risk. When cooked chicken cools slowly or sits out uncovered tiny bacteria, Salmonella and Campylobacter, the quiet villains of the kitchen, can linger inside its remaining juices. Reheating in a microwave or skillet warms the outer layer quickly, but the dense protein inside often stays below the safety mark of 165 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the danger zone where pathogens survive long enough to fight back. Because heat, especially uneven heat, gives false comfort. It's like drying rain from a coat but leaving the lining wet. You don't see what's trapped underneath. Health agencies have long warned that most poultry-related food poisonings don't begin with undercooked meat. They start at home with leftovers. The CDC notes that once chicken has been cooked and cooled, the safest window to eat it again is within 1 to 2 days, and only after heating it all the way through. But surveys show that many people stretch that to 3 or 4 days, or reheat the same piece twice. Not out of a neglect, out of habit, out of trust. Still, no one reheats chicken on purpose to take risks. We do it because the food looks fine, because it feels wasteful not to, because the memory of that meal still lingers in the house, the smell of herbs, the warmth of gravy, the comfort of something shared. You tell yourself that one more round in the microwave can't hurt. But the truth is, each reheating doesn't restore freshness. It just repeats the breakdown. The proteins tighten further, the moisture disappears, and what's left is a shell of the meal you loved. I used to do it all the time. Sunday roast, Tuesday lunch. Quick, easy, no waste. But then I learned what really happens beneath that golden skin. Now I've changed my habit. Whenever I want leftover chicken, I eat it cold on a salad and a sandwich, or sliced thin with a drizzle of lemon. If I reheated it all, I add broth or sauce, cover it, and make sure it steams all the way through once, never twice. After that, it's gone. Not out of fear, but out of respect. Because food isn't just fuel, it's trust. And trust fades faster than we think. There's a saying among chefs, chicken doesn't forgive temperature mistakes. It demands precision when cooking and patience when cooling. It's one of those foods that rewards attention and punishes assumption. You can smell its comfort, but you can't smell its danger. And the older we get, the smaller that margin of safety becomes. Reheating chicken isn't always disastrous, but it's unpredictable. A few degrees can decide the difference between flavor and fatigue, between comfort and regret. For seniors, that risk isn't worth taking. Therefore, I treat chicken differently now. I give it its moment once, not twice. Because comfort should feed the body, not test it. And perhaps that's what experience teaches best, that warmth doesn't always mean safety, and that sometimes care is measured not in what we keep, but in what we choose to let go. Because comfort is worth keeping, but not at the cost of safety. Number 3, potatoes. A young woman places a plate of foil-wrapped potatoes into the microwave. She's alone, late and tired, just looking for something warm before bed. The kitchen light flickers against the aluminum, the hum begins, and she waits, scrolling her phone. Little does she know what she's about to receive isn't comfort, but something her body was never meant to handle. When a baked potato cools inside its foil, oxygen quietly disappears. That cozy wrapping, meant to keep it warm, creates the perfect airtight pocket where Clostridium botulinum, the same bacteria responsible for botulism, can awaken and multiply. It doesn't need light, it doesn't need flavor. All it needs is time, and the kind of still airfoil traps too well. Because inside that sealed skin, something invisible happens. As the potato cools, the moisture and starch inside feed the dormant spores. Without oxygen, they switch to survival mode, releasing one of the most dangerous toxins known to medicine. Scientists describe it as a neurotoxin so potent that even a few micrograms can block the body's nerves from sending signals to muscles. In fact, health authorities have documented how a single serving of contaminated potato, just a few spoonfuls, can cause paralysis, respiratory failure, or worse. The toxin doesn't change color or smell, and once it's there, no amount of reheating can neutralize it. The microwave can't help, the oven can't help. Even boiling won't undo what the bacteria have already done. For example, one outbreak reported by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control traced back to a cafe that had served foil-wrapped baked potatoes left out overnight. They looked fine, skins, intact, steam, still rising when sliced open, but by morning the toxin had already formed. Several customers ended up in the hospital, some on ventilators. The potatoes had been cooked perfectly, yet cooled carelessly. Still, this isn't a story about fear, it's about how easily trust and tradition can turn against us. We grew up believing warmth meant safety. Our parents would wrap potatoes in foil, leave them on the counter, and reheat them the next day without a second thought. It was practical, familiar, but kitchens back then were cooler, and we didn't store food as tightly sealed as we do now. What used to last overnight now turns risky within hours. The baked potato is the perfect illusion of harmlessness. It smells wholesome, looks golden, even feels soft when you touch it. There's no sourness, no darkening, no warning. The danger lives quietly, no smell, no taste, no sign. That's why botulism outbreaks often begin with surprise. The food seemed fine. Registered dietitian Susan Brewer from the University of Illinois puts it plainly. Never let foil-wrapped potatoes cool on the counter. Remove the foil, refrigerate within 2 hours, and always reheat uncovered until steaming hot once only. Her advice sounds simple, but it's the difference between a safe meal and a silent hazard. Refrigeration stops the spores from producing toxins. Removing the foil lets oxygen back in which bacteria hate. And reheating uncovered ensures even heat, not the trapped uneven warmth that bacteria thrive in. Therefore, if you love baked potatoes, keep the ritual, just adjust the rhythm. Eat them while they're hot. If you plan to save some, unwrap them, cool them fast, store them cold, and reheat them uncovered. No need to fear them, only to respect what happens when air runs out. The young woman in that kitchen will likely never know what could have happened if she had left them longer. Maybe she's lucky, maybe she eats them fresh every time. But her story, ordinary, uneventful, mirrors millions of quiet kitchens across the country where warmth and safety blur for a moment. And maybe that's where awareness begins, not in panic, but in patience, in taking a breath before pressing start, in remembering that foil doesn't just hold heat, it holds everything inside, even what shouldn't be there. Food should comfort, not test us. And safety isn't fear, it's a quiet respect for how quickly warmth can turn when air runs out. Number 4, spinach. I used to reheat spinach. It seemed harmless, green, clean, light. A leftover bowl of sautéed spinach next to the rice or stirred into soup felt like a small act of thrift. It even smelled healthy. But after reading more about what actually happens inside this simple vegetable, I changed my mind. You've probably heard the old saying that reheating spinach creates poison. It sounds dramatic, something a parent or grandparent might whisper in a kitchen decades ago. And for years I thought it was one of those outdated bits of food superstition, like not drinking milk with fish. But there's a quiet truth buried in that myth. Not quite the poison people fear, but not harmless either. Spinach, like most leafy greens, is rich in natural nitrates. These are good things. They help plants grow and even support blood flow in humans. But when cooked spinach sits too long at warm room temperatures, those nitrates start to change. Heat and time encourage them to convert into nitrites. And under certain conditions, nitrites can react further into nitrosamines. Scientists have studied these compounds for decades, not because they make you instantly sick, but because of what long exposure can do. Because when that transformation happens, the spinach itself doesn't look spoiled. It just darkens a little. The bright green turns dull, the smell gets faintly earthy, almost metallic. You might notice it only in the second bite, a taste that feels heavier, older, somehow less alive. That shift is chemistry at work. Nitrosamines interfere slightly with how our blood carries oxygen, which matters most for infants and for older adults with sensitive digestion or reduced immunity. In fact, the European Food Safety Authority once explained that spinach isn't dangerous on its own. It only becomes questionable when it's held warm for too long and reheated multiple times. The longer it stays in that zone, not hot, not cold, the more those reactions speed up. For healthy adults, it's unlikely to cause acute illness, but it can still upset your system or reduce the vegetable's nutritional value. So the myth wasn't entirely wrong, it was just oversimplified. What once started as a mother's instinctive rule, don't reheat greens, turned into folklore that outlived its context. Back then, refrigeration wasn't as reliable. People left cooked food on stoves overnight or beside open windows to cool. The air carried warmth, not safety. In that world, letting spinach sit was risky. And yet even now, the same mistake lingers for a different reason: convenience. We trust the microwave to fix anything. A little leftover creamed spinach, a spoon of green soup, a casserole from last night. 30 seconds of heat and it's good again, right? Not quite. Reheating only restores warmth, not safety. Once the compounds change, the temperature can't undo it. What surprised me most was how quiet the change is. Spinach doesn't sour or curdle, it doesn't smell bad or give you any warning. It's the opposite of spoiled milk or rotten meat. It looks fine, maybe just a bit darker, and that's enough to fool you. That silence, that lack of signal, is what makes it so easy to overlook. I told all of this to a friend of mine, someone who loves making creamed spinach for lunch. She used to store the leftovers, pop them back in the microwave the next day, and never think twice. When I explained what I'd learned, she gave me that look, half disbelief, half curiosity. Then she laughed and said, "So I've been eating chemistry class all these years." Now she never reheats spinach. Instead, she lets it cool, quickly eats what she wants fresh, and stores the rest cold. The next day, she eats it chilled, spreads it on toast, stirs it into noodles, or blends it into a smoothie with lemon and yogurt. "You ruined my microwave habit," she told me, "but my stomach thanks you." It made me realize something simple: not all traditions are wrong, but some need translation. Those old warnings weren't paranoia, they were early forms of pattern recognition. People noticed that certain foods made them feel off after being reheated, even if they didn't know the chemistry behind it. That's the kind of wisdom we often overlook in the rush of modern kitchens. The refrigerator gave us freedom. The microwave gave us speed, but neither changed the way food itself behaves. Spinach is still alive in its own way, full of natural processes that continue after cooking. The trick is learning how to pause them, not how to fight them. So if you ever wonder whether to reheat those greens, remember this: cold spinach isn't a punishment. It's just a safer rhythm. Cool it quickly, eat it fresh, or give it a second life without the heat. Spinach taught me that not every old rule is wrong. Some just needed a little science to explain them. And if greens can teach us patience, the next food might just test our timing. Number 5, eggs. Picture this: you're watching a movie where the main character wakes up late, rushing through a morning routine. They crack 2 eggs into a mug stir with a fork and slide it into the microwave. 30 seconds later, fluffy, steamy perfection. The camera lingers on the smooth yellow surface, the spoon gliding through it like silk. It looks easy, it looks smart, it looks safe, but it isn't. We've seen it hundreds of times in commercials, morning shows, and those cheerful online life hacks promising breakfast in under a minute. The message is clear: speed equals progress. The microwave egg became a little emblem of modern efficiency, a symbol of how far we've come from cast iron pans and slow mornings. The problem is physics never agreed to that upgrade. Because eggs don't cook like pasta or soup. They're delicate, packed with proteins that react to heat faster than almost any other food. In a microwave, those proteins, mostly albumin, tighten and solidify from the outside in. The outer layers hit scorching temperatures within seconds, while the inside often stays cool and wet. That's the comfort trap. What looks cooked may not actually be safe. In fact, according to food safety researchers and the U.S. Department of Agriculture, eggs reheated or cooked unevenly can harbor Salmonella enteritidis, a bacteria responsible for countless foodborne illnesses every year. Once inside an egg, it doesn't announce itself. You can't smell it, can't see it, and definitely can't taste it. The bacteria thrive between 40 and 130 degrees Fahrenheit. The so-called danger zone and microwaves, by their very design, spend time there. That glossy yellow top might have reached boiling point, but the center beneath it could still be harboring live bacteria waiting for a second chance. What's worse, microwaves don't just cook unevenly, they build pressure. When water molecules trapped inside the egg expand too fast, they create small steam pockets. If the egg is whole or even slightly sealed, those pockets can explode, coating the inside of your microwave or your hand with scalding fragments. Videos online might call it funny or messy, but in hospitals it's called a thermal injury. For instance, one viral microwave egg hack a few years back led to a string of emergency room visits in the UK and US after people tried cooking eggs in shells. The trick looked perfect on camera, quick, tidy, satisfying. The reality was boiling protein and steam trapped under pressure. The media apologized later, of course, but the idea had already spread. Millions had watched and more had tried. Still, I can't judge anyone. I tried it once too, scrambled eggs in a mug before work. The ad made it look effortless. No pan, no spatula, just breakfast in a cup. I stirred, cooked for 40 seconds, and spooned out the top. It looked fine, but the center? Still runny. I stirred again, reheated. The texture turned rubbery, the smell faintly sulfuric. It tasted like efficiency, bland and impatient. That's when I realized how easy it is to be tricked by convenience. The camera only ever shows the surface, the clean countertop, the smiling actor eating a perfect breakfast. But the real story happens inside the food, where heat travels unevenly, bacteria hide, and safety depends on seconds. Eggs are by nature honest. They react immediately to heat, to time, to care, but they don't forgive shortcuts. When you rush them, they show it in taste and texture sometimes in consequence. Still, this isn't about fear, it's about rhythm. If you love eggs and want speed, you can have both, just not through blind trust in technology. Use low heat on the stove, stir slowly, or if you must use a microwave, pause halfway and stir again. Let it steam evenly. Better yet, eat leftovers cold, sliced into salad or layered on toast. Therefore, the rule isn't to avoid eggs, it's to respect them. They're fragile, sensitive to time and temperature, and a reminder that good food rarely bends to impatience. Because what looks quick on screen often hides a mess off screen. The microwave makes it seem effortless. The cleanup, the risk, and the biology stay out of frame. The truth is, safety takes only 1 extra minute, but it's a minute most people skip because the screen made it look unnecessary. And that's the quiet irony of modern cooking. The faster it looks, the slower truth reveals itself. So maybe the problem isn't the food, it's how we handle time. We trust the hum of a microwave more than the rhythm of a stove, the speed of convenience more than the patience of care. We've turned leftovers into a shortcut, not a lesson. But food doesn't forget what we do to it. Every reheating, every delay, every careless wrap leaves a mark we can't see. The truth is, most of these dangers aren't new. They've been sitting quietly in our kitchens waiting for awareness to catch up. And once you see them, you can't unsee them. So next time you stand in front of a fridge wondering what to warm up, remember, safety isn't fear, it's mindfulness. Heat once, eat with care, and let time do what it's meant to do. Move forward, not circle back.
This video does not promote division within the United States or encourage education. All content is presented for the purpose of exploration, analysis, and fostering discussion based on current events, public sentiment, and social trends. We fully respect the United States Constitution and all federal regulations. If today's analysis made you think, drop a comment so we can keep the conversations going. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you will never miss our next independent deep dive.